Steve Parker once told me when he had to give the Faculty of the Year speech that it was the most nervous he had ever been to give a speech because he was standing in front of his peers and colleagues. I can tell you that's real. I thought about this speech my entire break. When I was asked to stand up here as a non-Catholic and give my experience in a Benedictine environment, my first thought was, that'll be easy. I'll tell my own story. How hard could that be? I immediately found I didn't know where to begin. And not because I don't know my own story, but because of you. How can I stand in a room full of staff and faculty and tell a useful and engaging story to a group of people that have their own version of this story? And this is exactly what Dr. Parker was talking about. You're standing in a room full of experts on the topic that you're speaking on. And that is unnerving. So I'll do my best to make this palatable for you. When I started in St. Martin's in 2010, I was a temp worker. I came here to scout women's basketball players for the women's basketball program. I also drove teams to the airport and worked in concessions. I shagged soccer balls, anything and everything that Bob Grisham would ask me to do. It was a job to make a little extra cash while I searched for a high school coaching gig. It was a quick pit stop in my life. That's what this was. The fact that it was a Catholic Benedictine university did not enter my mind. It was not part of the equation. I was just here to earn a few bucks while I waited. After the next coaching cycle, when I was not hired, I applied and was hired by Event Services. And suddenly I was in a place where I was asked to mentor student workers. My immediate supervisor at the time was Casey Neely. He was a very religious fellow. He wasn't Catholic, but he was very involved in his own church. He took the role of mentoring students extremely seriously. He was my first introduction into what this community meant and stood for. In the Word, in 2 Corinthians, it says, God is able to make all grace abound towards you, that ye, always having all sufficiency in all things, may abound to every good work. Casey was the perfect God-given mentor to me. He was not Catholic, but he saw the great value in the Benedictine mission, and he took it very seriously. We discussed scripture every night at work. We used scripture to teach the student workers the value of hard work. He explained to me that it was our job as St. Martin's employees and as Christians to make sure that our faith beamed brightly so that our students could be exposed to the beauty that God has for his creation. I fell in love with St. Martin's because of this. I had only worked in the public sector. I had never worked in a place where not only could I talk outwardly about my faith, but it was celebrated. I have had the pleasure over the years of talking scripture with many monks. Early on in those discussions, I was very keen to discuss the differences in the Catholic teachings from what I had been taught growing up. As I had more and more of these discussions with the monks, I started to understand that their ability to accept and celebrate our similarities and our differences is what made them special. St. Martin's transformed for me from a job to a career to my home. The mission spoke to me, not only mentoring the students, but the events work I was tasked with. The Benedictine hallmark of hospitality is the cornerstone of my job. Right out there in the lobby, we have the art that hangs, and it says, all guests who present themselves are to be welcomed as Christ. For he himself will say, I was a stranger, and you welcomed me. As we train new employees in my department, one of the first lessons they get is every event we do is the most important day of the year for Salt. The standards that we try to uphold are to give every guest the hospitality and great experience they deserve. Over 500,000 people come through those doors every year. Every time they come here, they lead with a story of how they were treated. Did they have a good time? Was the building clean? Was the food good? Was the staff friendly? This is the mental checklist of hospitality that every guest unknowingly goes through as they're here. And all of this reflects on how they see St. Martin's. It actually doesn't reflect on me. They don't know me. Most of them will never talk to me. It reflects on St. Martin's. And this brings me to another hallmark that's important to me: stewardship. I am the director of event services and the facility that you are in, but it's not my department and it's not my facility. It's St. Martin's department and facility. I've been given the great honor to be a steward here for a finite amount of time. St. Martin's, as the abbot said earlier, has been here for over 130 years. Good Lord willing, it will be here long after I'm gone. I don't know when my time here will be over, but I want to leave this department and this facility in better shape than I found it. I want St. Martin's to feel blessed to have me in their life, like I feel blessed to have it as such a huge part of my life. I've been here now for over a third of my life, which is weird. That percentage goes up every year. I could never have seen or imagined a Catholic university being my home. I can't express to you how important it is to me to be here every day. The little joys that I get out of the simple day-to-day things that are involved in my life. I routinely get to stop by Nick's office, maybe more than he'd like, to discuss Catholic teachings, the Apocrypha once, our favorite scriptures, how we can trust God and lean into our faith. I get to do that at my job, at work. And that's unique. It's beautiful. This community that's built on love not only develops our students, but it can nourish you if you allow it to. I'm going to leave you with a final scripture from my favorite book. So I saw that there is nothing better for a person than to enjoy their work, because that is their lot. For who can bring them to see what will happen after them? I don't know what will happen at St. Martin's after I leave, but I hope that if I can be a good steward and demonstrate hospitality, that the person that comes after me will fall in love with St. Martin's the way that I have. Thank you.